and he's actually a pretty decent person. He does communicate on occasion and ask questions and talk. He must have got, you know, when he, I've been known when I put my phone in my back pocket to accidentally call people. If I'm listening to a YouTube video, I'll accidentally start another video. He probably accidentally started his camera, put it in his pocket, and he got busy doing something and wasn't even paying attention.
My guess he came in on the call and didn't even know he came in on the call.
That's a possibility too, because it was like his camera started immediately and it was black and he's not even talking. Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't know why he, and this is part of the thinking that I've had to deal with different people over the years, is they have the mindset that they stole my name, they stole this, they stole that, and they get so hung up on that, hey, TM Harks, are you there? Now that you're back? And TM, I know you've talked before.
At least he doesn't have his video on.
Yeah, at least he don't have his video on this time.
Yeah, people have had it ingrained in them from many, 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 many people saying that is yours and you should access it and you should get it back, and the way to get it back is to separate yourself and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So it's very hard to re-educate yourself all over again.
They got their minds wrapped around ownership. People think they own everything.
Yeah.
They can't get their mind wrapped around ownership.
Mind.
And I say their mind, but it's the mind even. Because
like the baby
how do you even own the mind? I mean, how do people say they own the body, but really? Cut the hand off and see how much you own it. Cut the left hand off and see how much it's usable now, too. You don't own shit. Not even the body. Because you don't even take that with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point now, I don't care the process they use to create it. Yeah, they use the freaking afterbirth. Yes, they use the placenta. The ownership, the beneficial, not ownership, the born alive test. It does not matter how long the infant was alive after it was separated from the mother. As soon as it parted the vaginal area, it died. And if it died immediately, it don't matter. Under the born alive test, it was considered born alive and must be registered. But people think it's all about them. Well, that's the definition of narcissism. That's, to me, that's greed. I don't care how I can see how they set it up. After that, I don't care. Okay, y'all wanted to set this up, then y'all are going to accept the damn liability. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think people don't understand, is that if you try to get control over it, then you also accept the liability of it. That's
and the elite live by the rule of own nothing, which means no liability, and control everything.
Yep.
One of the funniest claims of ownership that I laugh at all the time is when I hear people say, "our country, my country." Like, Okay, well, first, can you define that? Like we were already talking about, are you talking about the dirt? Are you talking about the so-called corporation? Are you talking about Article 3? Article 1? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And how the hell do you own any of it?
I'm glad you shared that court case, by the way. That FRC case.
Oh, yeah.
That right there is prima facie evidence that, yes, we have two Supreme Courts. And we have Article 1 courts, Article 2 courts, and Article 3 courts.
Yep. Funny shit. And it couldn't, of course, like you said, most people don't even come close to understanding any of this stuff, much less having their minds unwrapped around ownership. But then again, I'm still a work in progress. I still catch the self-claiming ownership of shit just because of the words I'm using and not thinking about them, not being totally on my game, but just kind of being lazy. So, yeah. It's because it's so ingrained from day one.
It is so ingrained. And here's the thing. If people didn't turn away from God, they wouldn't really have a problem with it. Because doesn't it say in the Bible that the Creator owns it all?
Yep. Thor, come on.
But
Yeah.
in a roundabout way, take it back. That's the same problem. You can take it all the way back to the story of the Garden of Eden. When Satan told Eve, "Oh, will you be this? Oh, no, you will be like God." Well, if God owns it, you're trying to be God.
Yeah. And what's interesting is all the people that claim to be so-called Christians and then, want to claim ownership of all of God's land and everything on it. It's like, what the hell? Are you serious? Come on. You guys say that you read the Bible and you study and do all that, then you're claiming ownership of everything. What the hell?
Well, that's the problem. They don't read the Bible.
Yeah.
They just repeat what their pastor says or what their clergy or priest says. They don't read it for themselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
So many people. I was just going to say, so many people do that because what was it last week in Pastor? We were talking about the sovereign citizen in court and Yusufel's reaction to it, and how so many people just regurgitate YouTube gurus, internet gurus on some of this stuff, and some of these gurus don't even know what they're doing, and then these people that don't know that don't recognize that the guru doesn't know what he's talking about, just regurgitate what he's saying. They never even spent a moment looking any of it up for themselves, doing their own due diligence, I should say.
That's exactly what I was going to say. People in this movement do the same thing. They spew out what other people say without looking up the stuff for themselves and owning the information for themselves. They just piggyback off of other people's hard work or not hard work at all, lies, which gets them into trouble.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing. I believe that's part of why they call the mouth the trap, because so many times when we open it, it's the mouth trapping ourselves. As I'm prone to saying, we are our own worst enemies, and it doesn't mean that there aren't other enemies out there, but we're all our own worst. Anybody that's smart enough to understand that can look back and look at all the decisions that they've made and say, yeah, that would be true.
It was just last month it finally clicked when I was analyzing the accuser. Who is the accuser? The Bible says the accuser is the devil or Satan or Lucifer, right?
Yep.
But in the public realm, the accuser is the DA. Do you know that the devil or the accuser can never incriminate you on their own because they have no firsthand knowledge? All they can do is point the finger. They need you to convict yourself. They need you to give up that right on the Fifth Amendment. They need you to get up there and testify and agree to the terms of their contracts, agree to everything, or they can't convict.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Out of the mouth comes blessings and cursings.
We're all the strongest witness against ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're not only our own worst enemy, but we're the best witness against us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Again, the mouth is the trap. Because as soon as we open it, we're bound and determined to trap ourselves with it.
Yeah.
And
Jesus
this is one
even
of the
says,
reasons why, I was just going to say real quick, this is one of the reasons why I've had a determination to stay with, just shut up. If you don't know what to say, just shut up. Don't say anything. Just shut up.
that's how they get you on that silence, that gap of silence, and you feel as though you have to fill it. And so that's when you start talking and gets you into trouble.
Oh, people can't stand that silence. I love the awkward silence. Of course, I was in corporate sales for a while, so it makes sense because it's the awkward silence that sells you. It's them not being able to handle it. But in fact, one of the greatest salesmen in the world, Zig Ziglar, put it straight in that once the question's been asked, he who blinks first loses.
Yep.
Well,
In other
doesn't it
words,
say in James
everybody
3:6?
stay silent. What's that?
Yeah, doesn't it? Doesn't it say in James 3:6, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. I mean, look, that's what happens. Our own mouth gets us in trouble, and we are a lot of times innocent parties, and we're wondering what happened. The government's corrupt. The government's wrong. But really, we did it to ourselves.
And of course, like I'm prone to saying too, there is full disclosure on all this stuff. So, again, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, and again, straight from the Bible, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, and it is the honor of kings to search a matter out. He who will be deceived, let him. So if you're not doing your own due diligence, if you're not getting up off the couch and putting in the footwork, oh well, that's on you. That's totally on you.
Look,
and don't whine about it later.
You
either.
want to be a king? You want to be a king? Adopt the principle the elite live by. On average, most billionaires read a book a week, and they don't read trash books. They don't read novels. No, they go read information books. They go read books that each of them have written. They go read books on. They go read how the system is set up. What's going on in the financial markets? What's going on here? What's going on there? They don't waste their times on the books that are pushed into the public.
Yeah, and there's certainly not.
And so what are they doing?
Novels.
Yeah, they're not doing that. That's for sure. Yeah, that right there is that is that principle. You want to be a king? Start searching out a matter. How do you do it?
Yep.
Through information.
Yep. And of course, too, and unfortunately, this quote came from somebody that, if some of the things that I heard about him behind the scenes is true, he's not such a great guy, but Einstein said the moment I stop learning is the minute I'd start to die. And it's true, because the brain is going to lead the way on damn near everything we do. And I say damn near because try to stop your heart from beating and try to stop breathing. You know, you can't do some of these things. The body will not allow you. You can't think past it. But outside of that, we have pretty well full control over the limbs and the mouth, the eyes, and the ears and such. Well, the ears not so much. Obviously, we can hear what we hear, but we don't always have to remember it.
Yeah, hear no
A lot
evil,
of people
see no
don't.
evil, say no evil.
There you go.
Hey, Ecclesiastes says, surely the serpent will bite without enchantment, and a babbler is no better.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's another one. As a dog returns to its vomit, a fool returns to his
Yep.
folly.
Yeah.
And it's not what goeth into the mouth that defileth the man, but that which cometh out of the mouth that defileth the man.
Yeah.
A lot of warnings about our mouth.
All these principles are laid out in Scripture, and the system that's built here in America is based on those principles. I mean, and people want to blame the system for its for their problems.
Yeah, I believe that it's been said many times that the 1611 King James is basically the foundation from which the so-called legal system is built. So if you if you use that as your rule book, touched.
Ain't that what the Masons get when they become a Mason? Oh yeah.
I believe you should start following the rule book. And to a T. It's not a smorgasbord. It's not a pick and choose. You have to go 100%.
Yeah. Do I believe for a second that all Masons are good people? No. Do I know some that I think are decent? Yeah. Do they have their own gods that they make a choice to believe? Yes. Because to be a Mason, you do have to say that you believe in a higher power. But that's the book that all of them get when they become a Mason. And if you look who the founding fathers are, a bunch of them were Masons. But what did they do to the people? They got the people denying the very book they use. That's one reason they created that separation, why they are separate from us, because why? The majority of the people, oh, that book's been changed. Oh, it was written by people. Oh, it was this. It was that. And they're sitting back saying, cool, go ahead, be a heathen. And they operate on a different level.
I'm led to believe that they operate on such a different level that they recognize and use the the Gregorian calendar, or I mean the Julian calendar. Rather, I've heard that be true, but I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure, but they've yes, and it would make sense. It would make sense.
Well, yeah, but based on what I'm seeing, that calendar was legitimately developed.
Well, I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah. Now, because one thing, let's talk about what was the calendar originally in this world. It was all the months were 30 days. All right. You do the evidence, every single culture had a 360-day year, but there was an event that happened at a certain time that changed the very nature of the planet, and they had to change the calendars to fit. And based on the evidence of what Chuck Missler put out, that makes the absolute most sense is the long day of Joshua, that when Joshua prayed to God not to let the sun set on him until he defeated the enemies of God. and that the sun stopped for 24 hours, right? Chuck Missler lays out some very compelling evidence up to that point that in our solar system, every planet has a sister planet. Our sister planet is Mars. And up until the long day of Joshua, Mars came in close, and it came in so close that it came between the moon and and Earth. Now, and when it did, it actually changed the calendar. It changed how everything worked. Now, if you hear about Planet X or Nibiru, I saw a report a few years ago that the theory of this mysterious planet is that it possibly was the size of Mars. I laughed and said, what if it wasn't the size of Mars? What if it was Mars? Because if you look throughout history, the ancients were scared of Mars. And do you know there was one place where it was written about that nobody pays attention to? And it was in a children's book before the invention of telescopes. And that was Gulliver's Travel. In Gulliver's Travel, they talk about the two moons of Mars, even their names, their rotation, how long their rotation is, and they're only off by 20%. I said, how did he know that unless it was passed down through legend and it came in close enough to Earth to where at the time of Joshua was when the calendars had to be changed? Within a few years of that, because the seasons changed.
Well, I guess it's possible. I don't know. That's why I say I don't even know for sure that on some of the other stuff, because I wasn't
No,
there.
we don't know because we
I
wasn't
wasn't
there.
there.
You're right. All we can do is review the evidence that is before us and make the best guess.
Exactly right. Come to a conclusion until other evidence provides you a different conclusion.
That's right.
That's it. That's all you can do. There's nothing
Hey,
else
do you
left.
want to change subjects just for real quick? Going back
Yeah, go ahead.
to Popple. So
Yeah.
I'm in the Gilbert.
Oh, yeah. I told you. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Did I share the definition of estoppel?
You did not share it verbally.
Yes.
You have
Yes,
shared
I did.
it on the chat.
By the way,
shared on the chat.
any book recommendations, Popeye?
Actually, yes.
When I'm talking about book recommendations, I'm talking about a lady that I talked to. Her son's in a bad spot, and he's trying to learn when he is in a bad spot. Any that she can send him that would help him? Any recommendations? Would you send them to me?
Okay. Yeah, well, one of the books that I'm actually reading right now, The 0%.
That's a little bit of propaganda in it, but it's probably got some good stuff in it too.
Yeah. Well, to me, you should know that I don't trust anybody or anything. I take everything with a grain of salt, because I figure that, like we're talking about infiltration, I figure that anybody could be pretty much controlled opposition as well.
Yeah.
Anybody could be. This is one of those things where you have to know enough about what you're looking at and or talking about to be able to discern whether or not somebody else does. And even if they do, doesn't mean that they're not still controlled opposition. But then when they hit certain things, If they're not talking about certain things, or they say something, then that'll make you wonder. You know, that's just how I am, at least.
So
I don't trust anything until death do us part. Just how I trust some people in certain things, but yeah, it's only after knowing people and knowing things a little bit more than just, hey, how you doing? Quick meet on a phone kind of thing. Like you, preacher, I trust you. Even if you were a controlled opposition, I'd still trust you. Where'd you go, preacher?
Yeah, why do you get quiet all of a sudden?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he's in a bad area or something. Preacher, what happened, bro?
okay, I'm back.
Where'd you go?
I had a phone call. Um, so the word estoppel, read the definition.
Yeah, and I filed it away. And go back up. Okay, a bar that prevents one from asserting a claim or right that contradicts what one has said or done before, or what has been legally established as true. A bar that prevents the relitigation of issues, and an affirmative defense alleging good faith reliance on a misleading representation and an injury or detrimental change in position resulting from that release.
Okay, now apply that to the name, the trust, all of that. The estoppel of the principal to deny there is an agency principal relationship. Why? If they own the property and you can't legally own people because that would be slavery, that means there's only a few other options of what it is. You already know you're not the trustee. You already know you're not the grantor. Can you be a beneficiary? Yeah, but that's a limited beneficiary. Oh, you've reached the age of retirement, you get disability, or you get Medicare, you get Medicaid. These are limited beneficiary statuses because you reached that certain age. But who's the actual full-fledged beneficiary? You're not that.
Mm-mm.
The state is. That means the only thing left is the agent. That means they cannot deny the principal-agent relationship when it's actually expressed. Because for them to deny it, they would have to say, yes, slavery still exists. They'll never say that.
Right. To be in trouble.
Yeah, that's violation of
13th
the
Amendment.
Northwest Ordinance.
And the 13th Amendment.
Well, the 13th Amendment is only a restatement of law. It's not the law. The actual law is the Ordinance of 1787. So when the agency position is properly stated, they can't deny it. Because it was implied from its foundation because they told us they told us it was their property.
Okay, so I'm reading.
So how does the agent?
Go ahead.
Do what, Matthew?
I was just asking, how would the agency recoup on behalf of the beneficiary without?
Well, the agent. Look,
being
have you ever worked for a company where you had to buy something for the office, and what did they do? They reimburse it on your check. Same thing.
Right, but that's,
Hey,
that's
principal.
Dawn,
Mute for a second. This is getting a bad echo. So it's the same thing, Matthew. If you don't properly express it to the principal, aka the trustees, how can they ever reimburse you for settling the debt of the principal? They sit here and they tell you every year, do these forms. Do you have to do them? No. They call them tax returns. Okay. Do you have to do the forms? No. Under the Paper Reduction Act of 1995, it says you're to do one of two things. Either a tax return or a statement. What do they give you every month in the mail? A statement. Why aren't you doing your own statements? Except instead of sending it back to the creditor, you send it to the principal and say, hey, here's my accounting. I settled your debt. Please reimburse me according to this accounting. That's the theory behind the W-4 process. The problem with the W-4 process, instead of going to the principal, they're going to the accounting firm. Well, under the estoppel principle of the agent is not allowed to admit that they're the agent, which is why I said it appears that the agent position is a private position, because why are they not supposed to tell the creditors and these other third parties they're the agent? Because by law, the only person the agent is to be reporting to is the principal, not to them. Hey, principal, according to such and such state statute, the agent is indemnified or has no liability for the principal's, you know, responsibilities. According to such and such code, my duty as the principal is to forward all notices, all demands, and all processes to you. And according to this code, it says this is how I'm supposed to mail it. So, hey, here you go. Take care of your person's matter. Does that answer that, Matthew? Matthew.
Sorry. No, because how can the principal collect on?
Collect on what?
I mean, if it's a trust relationship and you're acting as agent for what party of the trust?
How many times have you heard the left scream that the corporations don't pay their fair share of taxes? Well, guess what?
Like
Reason
if
why
you're
they
in a court
don't.
case.
Okay, what about it? Same thing. I did it last year with a traffic ticket. I don't care what they do with it. Just don't hold me liable because I'm just the agent. I did that 12 days before court last year. They sealed and dismissed the record. Do I care what they do with it after that? No. Do I know they're creating municipal bonds on the backside of the case and creating currency, and it goes to the treasury so they can collect money or collect proceeds so they can pay their bills? Yes. Do I care what they do? No. Just don't hold me liable. It's y'all's problem, not mine.
I was gonna say, like, how would
How would what?
GSA bonds work? How could you go in and submit, bid, performance, and payment bonds in the name of the estate on behalf of? Hang on, Cheech.
The
On
GSA
behalf of
bonds
the
are
estate
nothing.
to
Yeah.
uh,
The GSA bonds are
discharge
nothing but,
the.
yeah. It's not really a discharge. All you're doing is insuring the case. I've got a recording where a DC attorney admitted that the GSA bonds are insurance on the case. All you're doing is insuring it. And since the Social Security Trust is what they're doing, is what they're after, all you're doing is giving them the ability to go after what they're after. The video put out by the Federal Judicial Center called Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9 Part 1 and Part 2, they tell you the whole thing.
Yeah, that is a good video, but it doesn't.
It doesn't what?
They can't issue a performance bond to a placenta that can't perform. That's what I'm getting back to. Like, y'all keep
Yeah,
saying
but
it's a
you're
placenta
so
that's named.
just because they use the placenta as the vehicle to create the estate doesn't negate the fact that it was created to operate the way it's operating. It don't need you. Why do you think they've told you all along the use of the social's voluntary? Don't you look? Brian Parker resigned as
Really?
registered
So how
agent.
would the bond be created if it didn't need me?
Proclamation 2039
Well,
tells you how it
yeah,
would have
absolutely.
been.
It is voluntary.
Proclamation 2039 tells you how they can use it. Doesn't it say about the special trust accounts that would be created for these reasons? And then at the end of that section of the fourth to the last paragraph that says, or invested in U.S. obligations. They don't need you to invest in U.S. obligations. The trust is there for that reason. If you don't use it right, it don't need you. You're thinking just because they use the placenta, it must be attached to me, and without me, it can't do nothing. Well, you're half right because it needs you to operate as the agent. It don't need you to make the payments unless you want to volunteer to be a slave.
Yeah, like for example, they might take like your bond and somehow like you own like a fucking farm, a government like farm, or you're like semi-invested into like Raytheon Technologies or something of that sort where they're giving out these like grants and stuff.
See, I don't care what they use to create the trust. All I care about is how does it operate. You can create a trust just by putting your car into it. Does that trust need you to drive the car to operate for it to do anything? No. It's called a holding trust. It don't even need to make money.
Pastor, so like when you talk to like these state national people, right? And some of these people, right, they're like they've been in this stuff for a long time and they'll explain to it. They'll be like, you know, we have the ability to like control the trust basically by removing like their not permission per se, but they can remove the assets of the trust, like the debt, and then use the interest on the debt to pay for services or something along that line. I don't really like understand because like, how are they able to take control of the trust to some degree?
They're telling you a bunch of horse crap.
But some of these people, like I don't believe in that personally, but I do know people who like, you know, like have that kind of stuff, you know, that say that.
They say they do. I've not seen one yet that actually shows me documented proof.
True. Yeah, I think more along the lines it's like, you know, like as you said, it's about like using it to pay for like things that help you operate or like support the United States' economy in like a better fashion, right?
Well, your necessaries are to be took care of. It's why it's called the necessary and proper clause. Outside of that, you have no control over that trust, but the state nationals, they come from the same mindset that the majority of the people come from. They start with the premise, that's my name and the government stole it. No, they didn't.
Some of these people within the state national community, like literally go like look to set up like police officers and stuff to like sue them or like sue like the state for money.
Majority of them are full of crap.
Yeah.
State National Rocks on. He got called out the other day by somebody else. They had, on one of his other accounts. They said, "Why did you block Pastor of the Way?" Because he blocked me on his 14 account. I went and commented under that person. I said, "That's a very good question. I wonder how long before he blocks me from that account too."
Huh. What'd you ask him that like made him feel like to put up a defensive wall?
I just asked him a simple question on the GMEI utility video. I said, why are you presuming that it's tied to your social when you don't? I said, where is the name attached to that information?
Yeah, I feel, isn't it like your name and then the numbers of like your on your birth certificate bond, and then also like the name of your name and then social security numbers or something along those lines?
No, it's also it's a narcissistic thought process where you say it's all about you. If you understand what they're doing, I'll give you a mortgage, for example. Are you going to be able to go online and look up your mortgage and say, ooh, there's my security? No, because that's not how it works. What do? They bundle a bunch of mortgages together. It's called a mortgage-backed security. It might have 500 mortgages in it. Okay. Does that mean per se that if you were to go look it up the way they are, that, oh, that's mine? No. A portion of it you might have an interest in, but you don't have the complete portion. And let's say hypothetically that, okay, you go on the GMEI utility and you type in your social. Where's your evidence it's tied to your social? Just because you see those numbers, go do alphanumeric searches. Go type in other numbers. Guess what? You'll find other things. All it is a database of legal entities.
Like, for example, when they say like, okay, if you look up the like numbers on your birth certificate, right, and somehow appears up as like an asset class on the stock market that's publicly traded, what do they mean by that?
Hold on, do what?
There's people who say that if you look up like a certain chain of numbers on the birth certificate, if you have your original birth certificate, it can appear as an asset class that's publicly traded on the stock market.
Yeah, but what they're making a claim with no evidence.
Well, yeah, because they feel as if like, oh, like that if it's on my birth certificate, then that's that.
You look up a number and that must prove that it's your stuff? No. The only way you're going to get evidence that you're tied to that security or that name is tied to that security is you're going to have to go to a freaking broker that can see the stuff on the backside. I used to teach the very same thing until I got to saying, wait a minute, let's really look at this. Because what is not attached to it? You have no evidence. You don't see the name. I do not believe at all, just because you put your social in, that's the social. No. Why? I don't think they just have one security for your social. No. I think they bundle a bunch of them together. Because why? The Treasury is taking those T-bills or those Treasury notes or those securities, and they're taking them to the Federal Reserve and saying, hey, we need to print more money. You want to buy these securities? You're not that important to be just a single sole security. Sorry.
Yeah. So what do you mean by necessities? Like what quantifies like necessities?
The things you need to live.
But on a
Need a roof
legal
over your head?
Yeah.
Don't you need food in your stomach?
Yeah.
Don't you need a way to travel so you can go make a living and provide for your family? Yes.
Of course. And then when it comes down like to insurance, you need insurance to provide for the travel. Right?
Not necessarily.
True.
Not necessarily. I think insurance is a good thing.
Yeah, I was in the constitutional law group today where the Martin, I forget his first name, was speaking, and he was saying that he has like a $2 million bond that serves as his like insurance rather than paying
Yeah,
like a monthly fee.
yeah, he's got his insurance. You can actually self-insure. There's corporations that do self-insure. He's not wrong.
Yeah, so that comes to another thing where it's like, what is the premise of the output? Let's say, for example, if I like, drove into somebody and like broke their spine. And you know how like certain insurance companies have like the, things tied into that. When it comes down to that, it's like, are you the one to represent yourself in the court of law when somebody like comes to you because you're the like self-insured? Like, how would that work with that, if you know? Because I was rather curious.
I don't know how you can represent yourself anyway. You either are yourself or you are not.
But like when it comes to the payout, right? For somebody who suffers damages from a car accident and you have like
Then
the
you need to
self-insured
know how the
policy.
system works. Look, King, I'm not going to answer every single question you want.
Of
If
course.
you're wanting a how-to list, you're going to learn to read.
True.
If he
Is there
had put up a bond, he knows how to get that bond accessed. And there is a process. I recommend to people, and people have took my advice, if you go read the book in my file section called Commercial Paper and Payment Law, you'll understand the basics of the banking system.
I found it. Sweet. Thank you. All right. Hey, thank you so much for answering my questions, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was very interesting to hear him speak about like the way that he approaches handling himself in a court, especially when it came down to the overstepping of like judges who are seeking to like oppress him and like do wrongdoing with him, and even to the point where like even going to like the Chief Justice, that the Chief Justice is not upholding his oath. It's wild that that's like even like viable or possible in the court system.
Yes, you can use the Bible. Why can you use the Bible? You listen to my stuff long enough, I'm going to take the principles back to the Bible.
I was the Bible, yes. But it's like the upholding of the oath by those judges like is not being held, and yet they still hold like power in a court of law.
They're
And
not
like
judges.
to me that's absurd.
No, it's not. It's not absurd. You don't understand the Constitution and how things apply.
Administrators.
Bingo. Article 1. Anything under Article 1 is nothing but a ministerial capacity. They are administrators.
All right, that makes more sense.
How you doing, Andy?
Oh, good. I've had my head down studying. I'm doing all right. you doing?
Do what?
I said, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I actually, the other day put a court case in the group talking about there hasn't been any judges since 1789. That citation isn't exactly accurate, but that case did actually be enlightening. That case, the Supreme Court said they didn't have jurisdiction over those Article 1 and Article 2 courts. They didn't say it in those words, but that's what it was. The administrative or, what was the other term? Let's see here. Let's see. Our jurisdiction to review the decision of the court on appeals is challenged. This went to the Supreme Court. Let's see, here it is. But this court cannot be invested with jurisdiction of that character, whether for purposes of review or otherwise. It was brought into being by the judiciary article of the Constitution, is invested with judicial power only, and we can have no jurisdiction other than of cases and controversies falling within the classes enumerated in that article. It cannot have decisions which are merely advisory, nor can it exercise or participate in the exercise of functions which are essentially legislative or administrative. There you go. Legislative is Article 1 courts, administrative is Article 2 courts. So we have
To get
two
yourself
Supreme
in a
Courts. Do what? Do what, Andy?
Oh, it says, I reckon to get yourself with what you call an Article 3 court.
An Article
You'd have to
3
put
court
yourself in the.
is the Supreme Court of the United States. The United States Supreme Court is an Article 1 and Article 2 court.
Yeah, but I don't think you'd ever get to the other part of it without doing some jurisdictional challenge.
Jurisdictional challenge, they already have jurisdiction is the way I see it, because why? They're administering the name. The name is a trust. It's of their creation. They have jurisdiction over it. Now, when it comes to the man or woman, that's a different story. That's where you can start making jurisdictional arguments over like territorial jurisdiction, stuff like that. But the minute you go in there and claim to be the name, then you are accepting liability for the trust, and you have no firsthand knowledge that's your name.
Bound to the Constitution that you pledged to without knowing.
You didn't pledge to anything.
Oh, nobody did, but it's considered an acquiescence that you did.
No, it's not.
If you recognise yourself to be that birth certificate name, that birth certificate's a pledge to the crown.
No, well, that's when you go into court and you believe that name is you and you accept all the liability that comes with it. That's different.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I was on about.
Yeah.
You're doing good on their name, the corporate name, the agent of that name, the office.
Yeah, the agent is what you are, and the agent never holds liability for the principal. You just got to start understanding how to operate as the agent so you don't have the liability.
I believe you got the choice whether you want to stand a surety for anything or you don't want to stand, you know.
Well,
if you don't like
you don't
the
want to
flow of-
stand as surety. If you don't want to stand as surety, start operating like you're the agent and let the principal have the liability. The principal is the trustees that manage the trust.
all the liabilities fall back to the government.
Yeah, that's right. I shared the link earlier again on the Social Security website that tells you who the trustees are.
I wanted to say something that's interesting about like the court when these like administrative people have the ability to charge people with like false pretenses. That number one, they may have to wait like an extended period of time to challenge that in a court of law, and then also there's like no oversight committee for that person to like say like impose those charges like immediately to the point where like somebody may have to wait to represent themselves.
Hold up. You made a claim. What are you talking about, false pretenses? What do you mean?
So essentially, so he was charged with supposedly making like a terrorist threat to a judge, right? And what he had said when he had walked out of the courtroom to like one of the bar or like court associates or whatever was that he was going to go like file a complaint on the federal level, and like whatever amount of time, like less than a day later, like the judge had charged him with that. And while he was in jail, he had to wait for another judge to like oversee the case. And the judge said something along the lines before, like when he was reading the evidence, he said, "You got to be kidding me." And the matter of the fact was, like, he was in jail for some period of time before like that was imposed. Like, where's the oversight committee to say, like on immediate relief? You know what I mean? Like, as soon as like somebody's put in jail, like where's the oversight committee from that administrative like person to be able to like say stuff like that and put somebody? Because ultimately, like, they have like the final authority or say, but sometimes that's not always right.
No, see, you're listening to too many people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. One, I don't know enough about the case to make too much of a educated comment. 10-1, he went in there and claimed the name. 10-1, he has the mindset that the government is corrupt, and he doesn't see that what he's doing is the problem. You've got contracts you have signed with the government, and you don't even know who you are in relation to those contracts. Where's the oversight? The oversight is there. The problem is you don't know who you are in relation to that name. You don't know who you are in relation to the contracts you've signed. It's not the government, it's you.
Government's its own association, and if you adhere to their policies, you're bound by them.
So the matter of the fact is, like, he had like been charged by that judge like in an improper manner.
Stop, King. Stop, King. He was not charged. He is only the representative of the name. He is the dummy.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now, yeah.
Once he states that he is that name, then he accepts liability, which is why
Bingo.
he got caught up in that whole thing. If he just went and said, hey, I'm the representative for that name, I occasionally am called that name, but that name is not me, then the judge would have no authority over him. But by him accepting that name, he accepted the judge's authority over him.
Popeye actually on the last the 3.5 hour video I put on YouTube the other day, Popeye talks about his case with the marijuana case. He did all this in open court when it come to, I'm here to handle the matter for that estate. You can call me peaceful inhabitant. Judge did the same thing every other judge does. Because why? The judge is going to test you to see if you know what you're freaking doing.
And they're going to test it 3 times.
Yeah. Watching some of the cases where people who the government may consider sovereign citizens that are trying to represent themselves, yet do not have the know-how of how to properly speak to the judges. Some of these judges will kind of bully them in the matter, they may ask a question that's already been answered.
Look, that judge, that video Yusuf El put up where that guy went in there and tried that stuff, I give that judge absolute respect. He absolutely handled himself great. That guy wasn't ready for that judge.
Yeah,
it's
that
not
judge.
That the judge
yeah.
is. It's not that the judge is bullying them. Look at what people do. I'm not that name, and the minute the judge calls the name, what do? Yes, Your Honor. You're not the name, but you're answering for the name. That's being double-minded.
Or you have a lawyer representing you, which you've just given over your authority over yourself and showing your competency. You've just said that you're a minor and you have no authority over yourself.
You're not able to get on affairs and you've given away your power of attorney. Them actually become you for that name. Oh, we'll try our best. Well, what to do a deal?
But they don't work for you. They work for the state.
Yeah, they got an oath to the bar.
Yeah, they don't work for you. They're representing that trust. You come in, you're the agent. They know you're the agent. They need you to contract with the attorney. The attorney represents the trust. I've got proof of that. I had an attorney where I did the GSA bonds on a family court case, and when the case was over, he was supposedly on paper my court-appointed attorney. When I asked him about the stuff I did, he said, "Oh, I can't talk to you about that because of attorney-client privilege." I got it recorded, and people's, when I played it for different people, they said, "Wait a minute, wasn't that your attorney?" I said, "No, he's representing the estate." See, the word dummy in Black's Law Dictionary is the first definition: a party who has no interest in a transaction but participates to help achieve a legal goal. The second definition, a party who purchases property and holds legal title for another. And that definition says, see strawman number 3. And then when you go look at strawman number 3, it turns around and takes you right back to the word dummy. Now, strawman number 3, a third party used in some transactions as a temporary transferee to allow the principal parties to accomplish something that is otherwise impermissible. Again, it's what I say. You do not know who you are in relation to the name and to what's going on, and you're going in there falling on your sword because you're claiming that it's you, and then you get mad when they do what they do.
It's nothing personal, it's just business.
Exactly.
In some states, these publicly publicly given attorneys, right, do or they may not represent their clientele to the best of their ability to ensure that they go to prison such that like somehow they're paid from like that system of like ensuring that person goes to prison because the prisons make money off them. Just as like I don't remember, but there was like one county where a judge was like intentionally getting paid by the prison to send people to prison. In some states, may it be like that?
It's always business.
Business is business, yeah. But where's the intent?
They're not. The intent is that you are going in there and accepting responsibility for that estate, and it's not you. It's not their intention just to lock you up. They sit there and let you hang yourself.
True. It's like hurting the sheep.
The question you'll probably want to ask yourself, when does a right stop? Or when do you forget to express a right?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Right. Your right. When does your right actually stop? You can only you can either express a right, waive a right, or trespass on another to make your right stop. You know, if you don't express your intentions, him who don't express a right has no right at all. Especially
yeah, like
self-determination.
Yeah. So when the judge asks you, do you understand? And you're not supposed to say I understand, or do you swear on the Bible when you're not supposed to swear on the Bible?
Well, look, you're going into a religious temple. You're sitting at your computer, King. Look up Lady Justice.
I'm playing a video game while I talk. The Wikipedia article?
No, look up, just Google Lady Justice. And just look on Google what different things it says. Who is Lady Justice? It's the God Justitia. Ask any judge, do you believe in Lady Justice? Oh, yes, they do. And they ask you, how do you plead? Well, who are you supposed to plead to? A plea is a prayer. You're supposed to plead to God. The question is which God? You claim to be a Christian and then you come into their temple and you plead to their God. Guess what? You are a heathen.
How do you express that you're pleading to your own God? Like, if you're
well,
like,
one guy, Jersey Dan is what we call him. You know, he didn't know what he was doing. He goes in, he has like 8 misdemeanor traffic cases, and he goes to court, They ask him, how does he plead? He drops to his knees, does the Lord's Prayer. Judge says, I'm not going to put up with these shenanigans. I'm going to ask you again, how do you plead? He drops to his knees, does the Lord's Prayer again. This time the judge is throwing papers and yelling, you do this one more time, I'm going to find you in contempt of court. And I'm going to ask you again, how do you plead? He drops a third time, does the Lord's Prayer. Judge dismisses all the charges. 2 weeks later, they got him back in court for a failure to appear. What does he do? Well, before he went to court, he's talking to Mark up in Minnesota, and he says, yeah, but what do I do? What do I do? They said, do what you did last time. And he says, well, I got a problem with that. I don't believe in God. I'm kind of agnostic. He goes back to court, and the judge looks at him and plays daddy figure. Man, you know, son, you were guilty of this. Oh, yeah, I was. Judge brings back all 8 charges. He says, were you guilty of these 2? Yes, I was. Freaking he double-minded and hangs himself, and he's still in jail right now.
Damn. So, in the matter of the fact, like, that he had been representing the name as well in that, like, estate. So, yeah. So, if you had gone in there, and can the court proceeding still occur if you do not claim the estate or the all capitals name? And if it does occur,
they can do what they want with it after I'm gone. I don't care what they.
There was also this book I had read, read like a few pages of off Google, where it said like you should take like a certified copy of your birth certificate from the state, and when you go in there, say, is this on record? Is this on record? And say, I'm here on special appearance for the birth certificate and person. And then like they would hand over the birth certificate. And if they didn't take it, they would just like lightly press it over the bar. Is that like in a way? And then they would just walk out of that court. And if anybody tried to stop them, then it's against their rights.
Yeah, whatever. They don't even, do that if you want. I mean, you can. Sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes they're used to that one. Because the problem is you're looking for a magic bullet is the way I tell people. And if you're looking for that magic bullet, it may not work. Because why? If you don't know what you're doing and know how to defend it, why are you going to do it?
Yeah.
The judges are used to people doing processes. They're not used to people that actually know what they're talking about. When you get in front of a judge and you know what you're talking about, oh, that's a whole different ball game. They will treat you different. Because when they will test you, they will see what you know. And if you know what you're doing and you don't fall for their traps, everything goes differently. If you think you're going to go into the case and say, I'm here to represent that party and throw the birth certificate across the bar and that's going to fix everything, yeah, you ain't ready.
Yeah. But it's like the matter of the fact, like there's so much misinformation and potential like laziness, and alongside, not going to say certain people are stupid, but some people are stupid who attempt to do these things, dummies, and they don't like go like I've been doing like research and stuff for a while. So yeah, it's like improper. Like some people cannot play that game. of tenants with the judge. They're incapable of doing such.
No, the public is stupid.
Yeah, you just throw it across the bar. You got to fold it up like a paper airplane. I heard that on you.
What's up, JW? Look,
Nothing much.
the public is stupid. But who are the public? The people that play in the public. The people that don't care to learn the rules. You know, JW, he'll tell you the same thing. He has spent a lot of time reading the government's own documents. What do we tell people to read? Stop reading what gurus tell you. Stop reading their documents, their books, and go to the freaking horse's mouth. The government has to publish everything because it's a contract. But there's disconnect in the public. They just don't want to read the stuff the government puts out. For example, the United States Constitution is supposed to be the most important document in the country. And the government puts out a book called the United States Constitution with analysis and interpretation. And 99% of the people, or less, well, or more actually, have never downloaded the book and read it. They don't even know what their rights are. They don't even know how to defend them. They don't know how that document applies to them. They don't know anything. The government publishes everything. I was just watching a video yesterday of Anton Scalia talking to Congress, and they were talking about cameras in the courtroom. And he said before he became a Supreme Court judge, before he became a judge, he was all for cameras in the courtroom. He said, but once he became a judge and he saw how things are, he said, no, I'm not for it. And he said one of the reasons why he isn't for it is the ignorance of the American people. He said if the American people would actually educate themselves, it would be a different story. And he's not wrong. The American people will not educate themselves. He said, because why? The American people will see a 30-second soundbite put up on the news, and they will, basically, he didn't say it this way, but basically it's the mental image I get. What do? They'll bring out the pitchforks and torches. The American people have everything at their fingertips called the internet to study exactly how this system works, and they still refuse to educate themselves. I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for that. But they will point the finger at government all day long and call them corrupt and call them pieces of crap and blame everything on them. Now, I'm not going to say the individual might not be corrupt. Individuals can be corrupt. The system as a whole is not.
Yeah, a lot of people expect the government to do something about certain parts of the government, and they're able to, and they have tried in the past, but they're not able to deal with the people who don't want to help themselves. And then also, there's also the part that certain people may not know that this is the way that things are or work. And so, for example,
they don't know. The reason they don't know is because why? They're too
FBI
busy
propaganda.
watching. No, they're too busy listening to what the wrong gurus are saying if they're doing that. But the number one reason they don't know is why? They like their bread and circus. They love their sports arenas. They love their things they put all their money into. They will never care to go read a law book to learn what their rights are, because why? That's hard work. They're lazy. I don't agree with everything Rick Martin says. I don't. Do I think he's decent? Yeah. He's got success. He knows what he's doing based on how he's doing things. Do I agree with everything he says? No. But he has done the work to get where he's at.
Depth. Yeah, and it's also like for some people, like when you say like studying a law book, it's like you step into a pond, but that pond is 100 feet deep. So even though it may appear as just, a pond, that pond goes very, very deep down. And some people, like, in order to, like, cross inference or sexualize certain things, it may be more difficult. And then also not having the explanation of the language that's used in courts or other things, they may not interpret certain information as what it's truly trying to say.
You'll have to bear with me. I'm climbing this mountain. My signal's going to go out for a few, like, in and out. But what if that pond, King, only appears to be 100 foot deep and it's actually 6 inches?
Perhaps he's trying to say people can navigate in their system fairly well, as in statutes, just like Alphonse does. And then you got people who do it a different way. And then you got people who don't even associate at all. Like remove the self, as in the right to self-determine what they am and what they associate with. But that's stepping up to like law of nations level and treaties and contractual agreements.
Sorry, I'm playing Apex. I'm on a good game right now. Yeah, I guess like a better metaphor of it is certain parts of the pond have more depth than others, and it can get confusing trying to understand which part of the pond to stand in. And a lot of people might be trying to stand in different parts of that pond when they may have to only stand in one or the other, or, one or two.
Jesus tells us to walk on water.
Sure.
Well, when Pastor's driving his truck, he's working a corporate. He's in a corporate construction. Let's just say it's as easy as I can while I'm tired. But when he's at home, under his own home, then he's in a private capacity. He's doing nothing commercial at all. and you did sort of learn how to operate with what you're doing at the time. So stepping in and out of what you need to be at the right time can help.
I got a moment, but at over this mountain, it's going to be like this. So, King, you remember the story in the Bible when Jesus walked on water?
To cross to the boat where the fishermen were.
Yeah. He told them, right? What did Paul do? He looked at the storm and he started to sink. Even though he saw the earth, Jesus walking on water. This is the same analogy. You say, but if I
You're breaking up,
to
Pastor.
be 100 foot deep, and it's only, yeah, I don't doubt it. I'm almost over the top. I mean, what if it only appears that way and it's not?
It's kind of like looking at that pond and reaching the point, you know, like on a deeper level to where that water is just a flat surface, like any other flat surface that you walk on. And once we get past that programming that it's water, I guess it's walkable at that point, as far as an analogy goes. But
that's one way of looking at it. Yes.
And I also, oh, go ahead.
But the legal system is really very shallow. It's all based on principles.
Right. Well, in that regard, when you get into the concept of walking on water, and then you look up the legal definition of water, that kind of sheds a little light as well. The legal definition, well, I got it from Black's Fifth, water, as designating a commodity or the subject of ownership. And then it says, I think something along the lines of, this term has the same meaning in law as in common speech or something of the sort. I'll pull it out. I want to read it verbatim, but water is commodities, it's assets in the commercial world. So that's why you got this whole, it seems pretty obvious to me that the whole basis of this, currency system and banks, like a riverbank collects water. You got a company called like Wells Fargo, like the wells go far. They got deep wells. Well, what are wells in the commercial realm? They're big holes in the ground that hold water. They actually tap into a water supply. So it's not even just a container. They tap into the earth and extract water, unlimited basically. Going beneath the surface, tapping into that water source. And so when you get into the concept of, water being referred to as assets, when an attorney says to another attorney, hey Joe, I'm real thirsty right now. We got to get on with this case. I got a lot of work to do when I get back. I'm thirsty. In common English, we're like, oh man, this guy's parched. He must be dehydrated. And all he's talking about is he just wants some assets. So in Babylon, the language is designed to keep us babbling on. So one person will say one thing, another person will say another, like the word person, Hey judge, I'm that person. Oh, okay, cool. You're an entity. It's like it's the language, the words can mean so many different things, and the languages are all scrambled, and the Bible describes, the process that took place for that to happen. But, I look at all this.
the reason it's Babylon is because why? You can't read a person's mind, but you never think to ask, what do you mean by that?
Right, and I mean, especially when you get into the rabbit hole research, or I mean, just everything really. I mean, all the way down to like I don't know if I said it on here. It was like the space, outer space, and then there's seems to be much evidence that it's not necessarily the way they convey it to be. There's a lot of evidence pointing that the whole outer space thing is, not the way that they make it seem. But in the legal, scenario, the ones who output all this false information, the system, we'll just call it, for lack of a better term, they want to teach people that there's outer space, and that goes along with evolution, and that basically ends up leaning on your own understanding and science instead of God, for discernment. And to the system, outer space is outside of their space. It's outside of their jurisdiction, and the aliens, are us. They say that, very clearly when you get into trading with the enemy and stuff. So the aliens, us, from outer space, outside their jurisdiction, they're afraid that we're going to invade their world. So you get into, there's a whole industry and like culture based around the concept of space and NASA. Well, the word Nasha, you can look it up in the Strong's Concordance. It's spelled NASA, and it means to forget. So the language is just so intertwined to where they create pictures in our head through the words that are used to convey concepts. And I mean, it just came into my mind right now. The aliens, you're you're in first in line in a lean situation, an A-lean, as opposed to a B-lean or a C-lean. So we're the aliens, and they're afraid of us invading their world from outside their space, So to me, I see that very clearly, and I can probably talk about it for a long time, and branch off into all these other pictures they paint in our head. And, I can see all these goofy analogies and stuff, built into a lot of the stuff that we're used to seeing that's normal to us. But, everything that the media pumps out is, looked at by lawyers, written by psychologists, so yeah, they embed all their legal trickery in every single thing that they do. But we've only been here for, all of us on the call less than 100 years, at least this time around, if that's, a tangible concept. But they've set this stuff up so long ago, and the Bible talks about it. So we're in a very, very advanced, Babylonian with each other in system, So it's, the language is really where I see it all goes astray, is the language. Conveying simple concepts from one mind to another. And in the worst case scenario, standing in front of us, someone who claims that they're going to have, power over you to put your life in a difficult situation or position. And, they're using terminology that we're not privy to, which is, us suffering for a lack of knowledge, like the scriptures talk about. And if we embrace that for too long, it, says something along the lines of, he forgets us, so it truly brings another light to the term lost in translation,
Pastor, you're breaking up. To add on to that, I was a part of this community for a while, and they've been on the internet for a very long time. It's like the original Flat Earth Society, right? Their Discord's like Flat Earth 24/7, right? And a lot of people within that community had like stoic knowledge or like underlying understanding of like subsystems within Earth. And I mean, I've seen like, you know, maps, presumably outlining like the like systems outside of the ice wall. And Admiral Byrd, like what he said, I kind of guess kind of makes sense. Like the North Pole is 10,000 feet high, and the South Pole is 10,000 feet low. And like behind that ice wall is like other territories or lands, like Mars or whatever may have you. But I don't really understand, like, where do the stars come from? Like, do you genuinely believe, like, the Earth is flat? Because I've even though I've done research and I've seen things that, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I still don't, like, fully, like, believe in it. You know what I mean? Like, do you believe we live on a flat plane?
It's more along the lines of the principles, because we can only base what we, like, know off of, you know, the evidence that we have to prove it. And so when you get into something like that, I think it's kind of personally, I think it's irrational to be set on an opinion, because there's not enough evidence to prove either or. But there is something that we can all rely on. This is like Sherlock Holmes' method, is deductive reasoning. If you can't find a way to show that it's round, if you can't find curvature, then by deduction, it must not be curved. So I can't say that I would tend to say it's more of a simulation than it is an actual flat thing, but that's a different conversation. Like, it's really the principle being conveyed, and probably another sick, twisted, esoteric, legal analogy, which JW has actually talked about recently, because he sees a lot of the wordplay in a really, really fascinating interpretation he gives on what he sees. But it's not about if it's flat. It's really just about if what they're telling us is a lie. And if it is a lie, then they lose credibility. And at a certain point of a lack of credibility, they cannot be trusted. So it's all about really knowing thy enemy and, discerning what and who is trustworthy, and vice versa, who's not.
I look at it this way. Is there evidence that it could be flat? Yeah. Do I really care? No.
It's not going to help anything by knowing.
Yeah,
right. They're not going to let me build a UFO and gun it for the North Pole. So, I mean, I have no way.
Well, even then, it's not going to help any of us achieve anything that we need to in our lives. That's the whole point. That's right. It's going to lead to wasted time. Ultimately, it's nice to be entertained, but something that could lead into a time-consuming search. You want a positive yield out of your exchange of time. That's our most precious asset. It's the currency of. It's God's currency is our time. It's our most valuable, asset that we have. So if we're going to spend a lot of time to discern something, then it'd be in our best interest, anyone's best interest, to make sure that what we're putting the time in to discern, we'll be able to use what we get out of that after to move on to the next thing to discern, because, none of us got it all figured out individually in our own self. We're all in some type of identity crisis for the most part. And then that's aside from the world we're in. So who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing here? If the system or the powers that think they are or act like they are really are afraid of anything, in my opinion, it's of us knowing who we are, or of one knowing who they are, where they're from, and what they're doing here. Because if those questions are answered through heartfelt, honest seeking and experience, if one can answer those questions confidently, then the system's probably not going to be able to, use them the way that they want to. So it's not about if it's flat or round. It's about, are they lying about it? Why are they lying about it? Well, to waste our time and to keep us distracted, really, because they don't want us reading, all the stuff that is in these groups and this type of, they don't want us to discern what's going on, because that's their best defense, basically. So, distraction is the number one weapon I see that they use.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, also it's like, you know, if you hold, like, for example, it's like the collapse of the ideology of reality, right? So let's say, for example, you know, you have like a billion people that were raised up believing that, you know, the Earth is round, right? And those people like now experience this thing where you have like X amount of people saying that like this is not the way things are. How would that make them feel? You know what I mean?
Well,
And also it's like somewhat more logical than like, yeah, we live on a like flat plane with an ice wall, and you know, like over the ice wall there are like hella societies that like kind of despise humans and like the way it's ran, the elites and whatnot. So
that's actually
to me that's
it is. So
What was
you
that?
broke up, Pastor.
I said, go read what the Bible said. The fallen angels, they hate you, man.
Brett, I made you something.
Oh my gosh, my signal stinks. Welcome to Idaho. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. I thought Idaho was pretty flat.
It's got about as much curvature as everywhere else, I guess.
Yeah,
I've noticed that.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, brother. No, go ahead, brother.
No, I just think it shows signals of life, like that people are awakening. Like it's just another thing that the proof of life. You know, that people are like here and like they're, you know, coming alive. You know, so to speak.
Becoming aware. You know, we're well alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is what are they becoming aware of? That's the
exactly
scary part.
Yep. Straight up. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Everything is a lie. You know, like basically you have to you know, it's really an unlearning, I'd say.
Well, that is true, but here's the thing you got to think about. The Bible told us where it's going. The Bible talks about the mark of the beast. That mark of the beast system is sitting here being built in front of our eyes. And do you know, because it's the double-minded thinking of the people, they're going to walk right into it.
Well, I think that was projected in the Bible to a certain degree. It said that you know, the bad guys would build the system and the meek would inherit it. So I think that's what's happening.
Would you?
Always inheritance.
Pastor, I'm real curious to hear your take
Some
on
people,
this.
I was going to say one more thing, is that through meditation, like deep meditation, like monks out in Tibet and stuff have been able to like regrow like telomeres in lengths of like cells and stuff. So it is possible to live like, you know, 200, 300 years if you meditate daily and get good at it. And like your aging will slow down your oxidation. But yeah, time is like the most valuable asset that I guess we have. Despite like, you know, the potential of like mRNA, like editing gene therapy to like, you know, increase telomere length and reduce aging or
far
eliminate
outside,
it completely.
that stuff is too far outside of the realm of provability for us. So it doesn't really get us anywhere. We can talk about mRNA and all this stuff, but really all we're doing is reiterating what someone else said. That doesn't get us anywhere. There's only certain things that matter that are going to actually affect the outcome of our life. Like a lot of the stuff that is knowledge, quote unquote, is really just a bunch of distractions put there to make your mind wander into places so it doesn't wander into the other places that maybe it should be wandering. You know, it's a distraction of
entertainment.
Awareness. It's a diversion of consciousness is what it is.
If you are spending too much time researching all these things that do not matter, it is taking up time from what does.
Well, so I mean, meditation is pretty like amazing. The matter of the fact that like this monk was able to reduce their metabolism rate by almost 70%, whereas like the deepest like people who sleep are only able to do it 17%. So
yeah, well,
That's
Once
like
again, we're relying on the numbers. It's a numbers game put out by an
no. This was an
organization.
independent. No, this was an independent. Like it's been recorded multiple
I'm
times.
not
It's real.
discounting our ability to affect the matter of this world. Just for a fact of the matter, we have ability to do a lot, seen and unseen, physical and metaphysical. But it all comes down to what are we going to be able to apply, and is it supposed to be what we're like? I remember last time, you were talking about like designing weapons and stuff like that. Well, is putting your well capable mind towards weaponry, knowing that the world is the way it is, and there's people that want to get their organizations that want to get their hands on weapons to do things that are going to harm others, So the time that's focused on that, it's up to one who's focusing to discern if the focus if their current focus is actually going to lead to the implementation of something positive or something beneficial, not just for them, but for everyone around, because we're in the kingdom of heaven. I don't claim to be a beneficiary. I might be one by default, but I actually know that I'm supposed to be a good trustee, and all my brothers and sisters are the beneficiaries of what I do. But also in the same, they're trustees, and I by default am a beneficiary of what they do. So I'm not concerned about being a beneficiary because we're all heirs, right?
Yeah.
So it's really
different than a beneficiary, that's for sure.
Most definitely.
So Brent Dam, I just got your message. You want to unmute?
One more thing. It's weird to think like, okay, these things like these weapon systems, having invented the furthest shooting artillery system on the entire planet Earth, right? Cannon, basically. I mean, that's like pretty impressive. And I feel as if that would provide funding or, something of the rather to be able to go have the trust of the government to be able to go rebuild neighborhoods or tear them down. There's not many people doing what I want to do, but yeah, I guess there are other ways to achieve the same goal without having to create something that kills people.
And not to cut
defending
off Brenton, but I want to just kind of end off my little rant, pertaining. And I'm looking out for you. You're a younger cat. I'm a younger cat compared to some of the, dudes on here and women on here and stuff. But you got to just try to zero in on the principle of whatever you're contemplating and use that principle to steer, or make the choice if it's worth your contemplation. So you got to the way I see it is what are weapons used for? Period.
Well, take it. Hold on. Let me say this. Go read.
Well, what's the
book of
intent,
Enoch.
really? That's what it
Hold
comes
on.
down to.
Hold on. Go read the book of Enoch. I would question the spirit you're following, King, because according to the book of Enoch, the fallen angels are who taught man weapons of war for the purpose of what? Destroying ourselves.
True. Yeah, and some parts of this system, they have the ability, for example, to cleanse water systems or preserve the aura or the thermonuclear energy of food from decay without having to use preservatives or chemicals. So it's that's good part of it. I guess I may have made it for fun, out of fun, just because I've been studying this stuff for so long that it's oh yeah, why not just try and theorize something like this? But it's yeah, I mean it is kind of fucked up. Sorry to use that word. It is.
Yeah. Well, now let me address somebody because they sent me a message. Brent, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. So to answer your question, yes, you're going down the wrong path, but I can explain why.
I would love that.
Status correction has nothing to do with citizenship like they're talking. Okay? If the government has to prove you are a U.S. citizen, they are unable to do it. You're making a presumption that you are something you are not.
I found your information today, and one thing that stuck out for me is all the people that have tried to do FOIA requests about themselves being a U.S. citizen, and it's coming back they're not U.S. citizens. But I think people are doing it like you said. Did you say you did it before you did any kind of paperwork? Like we just don't exist as citizens.
I've never done that correction as
Okay. So it's not so. Yeah, you are breaking up a little bit, but I'm going to try to pick up the ball from where you're at from what I was hearing. So basically, anybody that's doing that is trying to resolve an issue that's not even an issue.
Yeah, you're bringing up a matter that doesn't even exist. Like, there's no proof that you could ever be that. Never pledged.
I'm following that. I'm following that completely. So, I guess my question is what's, so you said that we are,
let me say
please.
this while I can.
Yeah.
Be patient with me right now. My signal just dropped. I'm in Idaho, and I don't know, my signal's going in and out in these mountains. So if I don't respond, you know why.
Okay.
But
so
I will respond as soon as I can. So just be patient.
All right. Well, your signal's coming in good now. So the question is there a way for me to separate from the system, or is that not what I want to do? Because I haven't filled out my paperwork for it. I did pay for it, but listening to what you're saying, I don't know if I want to fill out that paperwork. I'd almost rather take my loss if what you're saying is true and correct. That I'd just be starting a whole bunch of yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you are already free. You just don't realize you're free.
Okay.
Because you don't know who you are. Okay? That name on that birth certificate, that name on your social is not you. It has never been you. You don't own it, but you're out doing business in that name. Well, if you don't own the business and someone else does, shouldn't you be telling the business owner what debts that business owner has incurred?
So how does knowing that, how to use that information to my advantage? Like, what advantage do I have approaching it that way?
It's called the law of agency. The agent is never liable for the principal. Hannah, you want to speak up? Because she was one of the first ones that took my advice. She's also a business owner. She actually read the book, Gilbert's Law Summary on Law of Agency. And then she come back and said, holy crap, this makes sense. Hannah, go ahead.
Okay, so the birth certificate is not ours. They just gave it to us when we were born. So we are acting on behalf of that piece of paper. That piece of paper is an entity. It's like a business. So we're an agent for that business. And in Indiana, the law for what an agent's responsibility is to forward all legal and like mailing paperwork of that business to the trustees. So we're putting ourselves in the middle of something and we don't know how to operate. So we're just the go-between, like a liaison between that birth certificate and doing business out, like with T-Mobile or buying property or getting a mortgage or whatever. We're not responsible for it. That entity, the birth certificate, is responsible for it. The whole kicker is, in my eyes, they've hidden where we send all this shit to. When we're doing the business, we're taking on the debt ourselves, making ourselves liable, which we are not supposed to do as an agent. that we're supposed to know where to send all the debt that we're taking on so that it can be handled by the trustees.
All right, hold on a second.
Does that
Hannah.
make
Hold on.
sense?
Hold on. Wait, because I'm gonna try to chew it back and I'm gonna try to feed it back and then fix me up a little bit on the way back through. All right. So what I'm now learning, or what I'm just first being exposed to the idea is that I am an agent. I should have agent responsibilities, but what
Yes.
I'm doing is I'm shouldering a burden as an agent for another entity, which is whoever controls the birth certificate and the social security, that's their creature, so they get to have whatever rules they have governing that. You're saying
Yes.
I'm the free person, and that I'm also, I think if I heard you right before, I think I heard the concept mentioned that I'm also, unfortunately, not the beneficiary. So
Correct.
all right, so I'm not the beneficiary. So my actual position in all of this is actually what? As
The agent.
right now, okay.
You know,
Is there any way to change where I'm at?
No, I
As
wouldn't
in,
want to change it.
tell me why.
No, the thing that you want to do is what we're trying to do is figure out where to submit all the liabilities
It's
because
easy.
we're not
It's
responsible
easy.
Okay,
for
wait.
them.
I think Hannah, what she just said right there. Okay, I think that you might have just actually poked the bear I was trying to find. Okay,
Yes.
so okay,
It's easy to send it to the right people. We already know who the trustees are.
okay. So who are the trustees?
Okay, are you go into the chat group.
Okay, I'm looking.
Look for a link from the SSA, Social Security Administration. Just scroll up a little bit. It's not going to be far. I just posted it a little
Stop
while
it.
ago.
All right. Oh man, I got a Doberman. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't mean to.
I got a pit bull, so I understand.
Hold on, I'm looking. It's my first time using Telegram. Okay, scrolling up. Back up one.
My retriever's in the house.
I know. I just hate being that guy. You know what I mean? Let's see what I got. So when I back up, okay, that's where I need to be. Got 5. Oh, I scrolled down a bunch. All right, for the sake of expediency, because I don't want to gum up your conversation.
You're not gumming anything up. That's what this group is for.
Oh wow.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, so I've got, where am I down at? I got sovereign movement.
No, if you're at the very bottom,
yeah,
scroll up. Okay, cool.
Okay, you broke up a little bit, but that's all right. You said we'd work it out.
Yeah, you see that picture of T-Mobile, the T-Mobile portion of the terms of service. 2 posts
I have not
above that. Okay, then I'll do this. I'll just take it, copy the link, repost it right to the bottom.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
There you go.
All right. Let's see.
By the way, that T-Mobile post is extremely interesting, especially since they took Mint Mobile over.
Well, hold on. That guy that posted that picture, he was concentrating on the minor status. Did you get emancipated or are you age of majority? He totally missed what it said under that. Because look at what it said under that. It said, it says when you accept, you're telling us that you are of legal age, you are either legally emancipated or have reached age of majority defined in your jurisdiction, and that you are able to enter into contract. Okay. He totally missed what it said after that. If you accept on behalf of an organization, you are telling us that you are authorized to bind that organization, and references to you in these TNCs may mean the organization. Whose name do you put it in? The
Yep.
name of the trust and the social.
Right.
So okay, so you guys are saying that when I get a bill, right, that the bill is the responsibility of whoever created, let's say, the all caps name, just because of where I'm at. You know, I don't have your terminology.
Yes.
But so a responsibility. So worst case scenario, I shouldn't be funding the responsibility. I could maybe be administering or distributing, and then part of my responsibility as an agent is to notify the principal, and then the principal, it's the principal's responsibility. That's their position in the trust.
That's right.
Is that even is that even close
You're
to true?
only
Yes. Did
But
you
I don't
open
know
up
who
that
the
that's
principal.
perfect. And
All
your
right, hold on.
only
Open up that link.
responsibility. That's your
Hold
only
on.
responsibility
Hold on.
as
Wait,
the
listen.
the agent.
Wait. Listen. You guys are up
Hold
there a
on,
little
hold
bit.
on, Hannah.
I've got
Hold on, Hannah.
Hey,
I've got
Pastor.
exactly one week into this. So
Hold on, Hannah.
so
Pastor,
what
who
I'm
do you think the two
what
vacant
we,
positions are in the
I don't care who they are. I don't care who they are.
It's probably us or Vital Records.
No, it's
No?
not us. I have a theory that the judge and or the DA assume those roles.
Ah.
all
So
right,
they're
guys.
like
So
interchangeable
Now
roles.
hold on, Chris. Hold on, Chris. Let me talk to this guy. He's a week into this. Did you open that link up I shared?
I couldn't grab it. I could see on the bottom there, because obviously you're
Tap
making
on
it
it.
worth my. I know I
Tap
can't
on it.
see it as well. I'm in the chat.
Yes, in the chat.
All right. And then
Just tap on it. It'll open up a browser.
the last thing I have is, like it says, like an estoppel PDF is the only thing is the last thing I can see for you guys at 6:30.
You don't see
Pinned.
anything after estoppel?
No.
Welcome to the
Oh.
journey.
Oh,
Welcome
okay.
to
That's
the
okay.
journey.
That's okay. I am totally happy though. I'm totally happy to take what I can get from you guys right now, because listen, I want to share with you where I'm at. Like I said, I already paid for the package program. I just haven't filled it out, and I'm looking at some of the declarations in there. And then I was listening to what you guys had to say, and it sounds like I'd be opening up a can of worms. So I'm thinking I don't want to operate on a bunch of presumptions. What I have had a chance to hear today is that the source of the information is that you guys are going back to, right? That's what they create, they control, and you guys are going to the original documents and saying what is. So what Hannah or whoever, I'd be so where the principle, right? So we get a bill, and should we, like, for instance, I bought a house in the last year. So how do I know how to be, what is my role as an agent to be a good agent in good standing? What do I need to, what are my responsibilities? And then where are people messing it up? Like, are we going too high? Are we trying to say that there's the SESQ trust? Does that exist? Is that for our benefit if we're in the right position?
Hold on. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's do this.
One at a time. Let's do it.
I sent you the message privately. I know you can see that. Why you can't see it after the estoppel, I don't know.
That's okay. I'll work with it.
When did you join the group?
Today. Like, actually about 15 minutes ago, when I saw that you guys were live.
You actually did click the thing that says click if you're human?
I don't know if I did. I don't know if they made me do that.
Okay, because somebody joined.
Okay, but I did open the thing. So I did. Okay, so I saw on one of your other lectures this thing where it said the board of trustees consists of 6 members, and you were saying that there's 4. Were you saying that there's 4 positions in that, the Secretary of Treasury, or do I have the wrong one?
No, that's the right one. That's the link I sent you.
Okay, yeah, you sent that to me on the private. I got that like you suggested. So
That was the link I shared at the bottom. You said you couldn't see, and I'm
no, that's the
confused
one.
as to-
No,
Yeah,
I got
'cause-
it on. I didn't get it on the other thing, but I got it on the private message that you sent me, so I
Yeah.
can work with that. So
Now,
okay,
what is Social Security? It's a trust.
I understand that. Okay,
That means the trustees have the legal. They are the legal owner of the property. That means they are the principal that are supposed to settle the debts of the trust. Now, you appear to be an older gentleman that's been around the block a little while. Okay. Do you own a business?
I actually just recently closed one. I don't have a business right now.
Okay.
That's
so you
one of the
have
reasons for my urgency.
So then,
Yes.
yeah. So when you went to go purchase something for the business, didn't you put it in the name of the business?
Yes.
Okay, so you would put it in the name of the business and the EIN. Okay, that
Yes.
means what? Now the government knows who the owner of the property is, which is your business.
Yep.
So
I understand
when you
that.
fill out when you fill out government documents and you put the all caps name and the social, it's the same thing. You're putting
I'm
it
with
in
that.
the name of the trust.
Right. The difference is that with my business, I knew where to draw a check from. Like, right, I was a mechanical company, so I'd write money would come into the business from a client, right, go into the bank account, and then I would pay the debt, right, with money that I had received from the clients. So in this case, what I'm looking for is, let's say I know who I am. I'm a free living person. An all caps name was created, all right, and then that's a debt for an all caps name.
Yeah.
So where do I send the bill, right? So I send my bill to the Secretary of whatever, or Secretary of Human Resources, or something like
The
that.
Secretary of Treasury.
Even
That's
though
the
it's
managing trustee.
so even though it's my house, I can
It's
send
not
a
your
copy.
house.
Okay, now help me. Light me on fire.
In the congressional record, March 9th, 1933, they mortgaged all the homes and all the other property of the people. That
Oh
means
shit, when they
by
turned it into gold.
law-
When you said,
that
so you
means-
gave, oh no, no
That
way.
means by law, you are nothing but a property manager. Go down to the county recorder's office and look up the deed of trust or the warranty deed. It plainly says on it, you are a tenant. A tenant
It's
is not an owner.
No way. That's how hold on, give me a second, guys. Hold on. My brain is frying. I almost got it. Hold on. You're cooking me here. You guys are cooking me. All right, hold on. So
It says it on mine, and I supposedly own.
So the reason why this all comes together, right? Because you were referring back to the 33 when they flipped it. They said, "Give us all your gold." Now the whole surety and system, our money is now the mortgages on the home and all properties. And what you guys are saying is that part of the covenant of being part of all the mortgages is that the mortgage is actually their mortgage, and I'm just sweeping up inside the house. Is that right? I'm just a caretaker of the home. No. That sucks. Still there? Everybody? Nobody?
I hear you.
Okay,
yeah,
God, thank you.
You're a tenant.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's that.
How can you own anything anyway, brother? I mean, really, think about it.
I'm here too, and I'll tell you that I have no mortgage, and it says tenant on that deed.
I've seen that before. I don't have that. I don't have.
All right. I will take you guys at your
property
word
like
because
that.
I've
Yeah.
got 29 years left on this sucker. So I can, so if we want to draw from the trust and send it over, do we have to do it like on the monthly thing, or can we send the whole entire thing over to the treasury?
Oh, now look. For some reason, I didn't realize I got muted. What are you
That's
looking
okay.
at this? I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, hold on. You guys are insane, by the way. It's so easy to understand so far.
That's what people like, because I make things make sense.
All right, let's see
Now,
if I can share a screen
March,
with you.
You don't have to share screen. You're fine. I want you to see what I'm. Okay, there we go. March 9th, 1933. This is the congressional record. They did not steal the gold, by the way. I'll show. Right here. You see this right here under the federal, this here and forth?
I'm on the video chat and I don't see anything yet. I see a little thing that says Pastor of the Way, and it's strobing a soft, relaxing purple.
Does it show my screen, anyone?
No, it doesn't. It might be a bandwidth thing.
Ah, there it is. Something popped up. All right, let's do this. All right, and what were you, there was something that you were, what am I supposed to call you, by the way? I apologize.
Everybody calls me Pastor.
Pastor? All right, let's do it. That's easy to remember.
I don't own the government name, so I don't use it. So you see right there where it says and so forth?
Yes.
Okay, it says under the Federal Reserve Act, obligations that are deposited as the security and gold for reserve notes are placed in the hands of the Federal Reserve agent. That is Title 12 USC 411. They didn't steal the gold. They redefined what gold was. Because
I understand what
English, you said. It said as the security and gold. That is page 2 of the this congressional record. Now go down to page 5. Right here. You see right here in the middle, it says under the new law.
I can't see everything on there. Oh, wait, you
That's
got something
fine.
else that just popped up.
Yep. You see under the new law?
I can't see it, but I will take.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, like in the middle.
Under the new law, in return for government. Okay.
It says under the new law, the money, singular money, not monies, is issued to the banks in return for government obligations. Whose obligations? The government's. Bills of exchange, drafts, notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances. Okay? The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar. Singular. Those singular words are important. Because why? They never defined what a denomination is. So look at what you carry in your pocket. You carry change and cash. You have a $0.25, $1, a $1, a $5, a $20, a $50. You've got all these dollar. They all have equal buying power, no matter what you do. You just think there's a denomination. Okay? So.
Whoa. Listen, I want to say I understand, but there's something in my gut, guys, that's telling me that I think that's probably a big concept.
Let me give you a big example. When you
Thank you.
signed the promissory note called for that mortgage, how much was your mortgage?
The total value of was $350,000.
Now, here's your example. They never defined what denomination is. Why? If they actually put into law that the max denomination is $100, how many $100 promissory notes would you have to sign for $350,000?
3,250.
No, 3,500.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So what did they do? They made it to where whatever value is put on the promissory note has the same buying power as if it's $1. In law, there is no difference between that promissory note you signed for the mortgage than the Federal Reserve note. No difference. Both promissory notes.
But I can't exchange $1 for my house, right?
Yes, you can.
I can exchange $1 for my house, and I won't have to see a mortgage bill come in here. Oh, that's fair. He breaks up right there. That's the cliffhanger, guys. All right. So does anybody want to pick up? Like, does anybody understand what he's actually trying to convey to me?
Let me look here.
A little bit. You're still in the land of choppiness a little bit.
What he's saying, in short, is that
Thank
Federal
you.
Reserve note is a promise to pay, and so is that mortgage document.
But are they
It's an IOU.
equal?
It's technically an IOU, and those IOUs are gain their value from whoever is issuing them or using them, per se.
Okay.
They're IOUs. I'm actually just pulling up just for conversation's sake and to chip in a little bit legal definition of note, which is basically an evidence of debt is what a note is. So that's the premise of what's being said.
There's no differentiation between a large promissory note and a small promissory note, because if I was a lender, right, and I was doing a balance sheet, right, I would want more people to owe me more money. I'd be a more valuable person as far as potential assets. So you can't say they're the same, can you?
The principle is they're both promises to pay.
While that is true, I'm struggling with the idea that they're both of equal value. Like if someone takes on a debt for $1 million, right? If someone owes me $1 million, the value of that debt is $1 million. If someone owes me $10, it's a completely different thing, right? But there still might be promissory notes, but they have one thing in common, which is the value of the promissory notes. One is an obligation to pay $10. One is an obligation to pay $1 million. How do you reconcile how different those things are?
Can you simplify that a little bit?
Sure. Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm learning like the rest of us, you know. I've been studying for enough time to, you know, be connected with certain principles that, you know, we're all facing with a lot of this main fundamentals of what's going on. You know, for every tree there's a trunk. It's real easy to notice, but if you're told to count every branch, it might get a little tougher, and if you're told to count every leaf, it might even get tougher. So, you know, the principle is what I zero in on, because once I'm aware of what the principle is expressing, then I can actually see how the mechanics, you know, play that out. So, but
okay,
yeah.
So where we were off and where we were looking for harmony was you said that a promissory note is a promissory note, right? And they're the same value. $1 is the same as $1 million. But in my everyday life, right, if let's say an insurance company owes me $10 million. I'd be like, woohoo, you owe me 10 million. I'm on Easy Street forever, right? If an insurance company writes me a claim and says, hey man, sorry about your luck and your legs, we owe you $10. I wouldn't walk away and be like, woohoo, a promissory note is a promissory note is a promissory note. That seems like that's not that the difference in value, even though it's debt, is substantially different. It's materially different.
Well, the way I see it, in my perception, as far as the principle of what you're describing, is that the value, because there's no solid asset, formally backing all the currency, like there was at one point, that there's well, even this goes into anything really. It's like selling a used vehicle. That you can buy a vehicle for 30,000 and then a week later sell it and it's only quote unquote worth 20. Well, the value of things is what we perceive it to be. So when you get into the concept of a promissory note, whether it's a $500,000 or a $100,000, what's a value is being perceived, and then it's being put into pretty much really, it's like a monopoly. It's kind of like a game, like the money it's not worth anything unless you're playing the game. So, when people understand how the money system works, when you get into the concept of, banking or a banker, then being able to meld the gap between the $10 promissory note and the $10 million one is just a stroke of a pen, but that's where knowledge is power.
Well, that would be true if I had it wouldn't be true under any circumstance because the volumes are different. Like I said, if I were to come up to you, like I said, I'm talking to you in terms of, what's your first name? Can I ask that?
Yeah, Matthew.
Okay, Matthew. My actual name is Brenton Matthew.
Okay.
So
nice
let's say,
kind of.
Thank you. So if I get into a car accident and I destroy your Porsche, right, your $120,000 car, right, and I say, okay, I'm sorry. You're like, my $120,000 Porsche is destroyed, and you say I want $120,000, and I say I'm going to give you $10 because a promissory note's a promissory note. Certainly, you would reject that, right? You wouldn't say trees, forest, leaves. Let's not look at it this way. You'd say, hey man, I just lost $120,000 worth of value. Would that be an arrangement would that be a point of contention between you and I if I'd crashed your $120,000 Porsche?
Well, yes, but if I was a banker and I was kind-hearted, maybe not.
Okay, but neither one of us are bankers and neither one of us are $120,000 kind-hearted, I assume. So
what you're asking is how does it work for when a slave crashes into another slave on the plantation? Well, we got to go by the plantation rules and procedures because we're in that we're stuck in that box. But once we expand outside of that box, there's many processes that people it appears to. I mean, I've heard first, second, third hand of experiences where it gets into just complex topics of interest like IRS forms. A lot of people claim that at a certain point the IRS is your friend. And so there is processes to be able to express that $10 promissory note in $1 million value, but that's advanced, and that stuff isn't necessarily being talked about as common knowledge in these group settings because you get to a certain. We're talking about accessing and tapping the system in that regard, and it just takes a lot of knowledge, And
So does anyone here, right, when they're talking about, this value or this Social Security thing, is our trust is anybody actually using that currently right now to relieve themselves of what they consider not their obligations? Like, is any one of us living as an agent and only a tenant and letting that pass through, sending their bills over to the Treasury and getting them paid?
It appears to be the case in various, different approaches and formats. But me personally, I'm just learning a lot and implementing things little by little. So, but yeah, I mean, in reality, if you think about if the concept, if there is, quote unquote, let's just for lack of a better term, no money, everything's based off of credit in that regard.
Okay.
So every time, Federal Reserve notes are being issued or moved around, the way I perceive it's based off of a credit that's
right,
coming from us.
That's not what I'm at. I think you know what I'm asking a little bit, right? Can you feel it? Like I'm not.
Well,
what I'm asking
when you get into the concept of accessing these,
it's exactly where I want to go.
Accessing the storehouse.
Yeah,
I'm gonna use a biblical term is accessing the storehouse.
Let's go there. Let's go.
It's like looking at a mountain. It's like looking at a mountain that's got multiple hiking trails that all lead to the same place.
Okay.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay. Do we have knowledge of the way? Like concrete knowledge? Like I said, is anybody is this like, okay, you're like, hey, Brenton, I got great news. You're just a tenant. So don't worry about it. Okay. So I'm just a tenant. Now what? What action I'm a mechanical person. I run mechanical companies. I do physical things. Right. So I'm like, okay, physically, right. I'm like, okay, is there a status change or is there an access point? We're saying that I don't have to pay it. Now, what action do I have to take aside from, let's sit here and learn and do all this? I'm saying, does anybody know? If we don't know, we don't know, and it's just okay. But if we know, is that cool? Yeah. Like, can we talk like can me and Matt talk like that? Like if nobody knows, if nobody here knows, that's fine. Let's just all admit it. But if somebody knows, they need to be talking a lot.
Well, that's like the whole thing. That's the and then there's the biblical concept of not casting pearls before swine. So if there's depends on the level of experience that one has. If they get a 1, 2, 3 instruction list on how to do something that's beyond what they've learned or earned with an L, because learning is earning. Literally, it just has an L on it. So I've come to terms that in order for me to receive certain knowledge, I have to go through prerequisite learning and studying. And really, with our most precious asset, the currency of God is time, we need to exchange our time for that knowledge. And that consists of, diligent input and stuff. But yes, there's behind closed doors, much more gets talked about. But this is, as private as it may be, it's still kind of viewed as a public setting. So I've witnessed many times things talked about and then certain things obviously not talked about.
Okay. So I appreciate where you're coming from, and I hope that you'll appreciate where I'm coming from.
I totally do, and I want to. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, let me fill it in, and then you can straighten me out. So there's a lot of things about learning, but some people can learn and learn and learn and learn and not do, right? So there's a certain kind of credit that the universe will also give you. We're going to talk about universal laws for just actually taking action. And I'm looking for, does anyone know the actual action to access this? If it's a private thing, then all I would ask before the private thing is, has anybody been able to do this? Aside from just, saying, hey, we're not responsible for this. Has anyone made it to, okay, I've reached the age of majority. I'm willing to take responsibility. I'm assuming, as a matter of fact, that if I get off a Social Security roll, that if I ever get hurt or something like that, and I walked away from the Social Security trust thing, that I may have forfeited my ability to do that. Like I'm totally willing to say that both sides are fair. If I walk away, I walk away from the system. I'm willing to take care of myself, which would make me not a pauper. Right. I'm pretty well off. I could pay for my home right now and just be done with it. But I'm looking for, is there another system? And if there is another system, I'd like to participate in it. And I'm not asking to abuse it. I'm just saying if it's that, if we're actually the surety, we personally, and that we're not responsible, then where's the evidence that we're not responsible as far as us being released from having to go to work every single day to go pay someone else's debt? If it truly is someone else's debt, then whose is it? And if it's that person's or that real person or the fake person or fictionary person or whatever, if it's theirs, I don't mind giving it to them. If it's mine, then I'll accept that I have to pay it. Does that make sense?
100%.
Okay, cool.
And so what, so this, a lot of the like beginning knowledge is, this term status correction is like I'll just call it like a noob word. It's like a noob phrase. It's almost like a term of art in like the quote unquote patriot community, because really that status correction is when you're trying to, change to a national or, not a U.S. citizen, like that's all the person. You're trying to modify the game piece that they gave you to play the game. So no matter what status you get changed in that regard, it's going to be always the person's status that's changing. So to really start, the whole goal should be to learn how to express on paper and in verbally in real life. Anything that's put on paper should be able to be recited, first anyway out of the mouth. So
I have no problem. I have no problem doing that, and I have no problem applying myself to that, providing, providing that the outcome is there, right? That a person I don't know why everyone's in a hurry to get what they have to say out. But when I looked at the state national process and said, you know what, you don't have to be party to this IRS debt or whatever, or party to all these laws because someone else made a choice for you. And if you're willing to live where you can't steal from your neighbor, you can't plunder their things, you can't act dishonorably and draw attention to yourself, I'm okay with that. Are you?
Of course.
Okay, cool. So I'm okay with that. I can live that way. But that's what the people that wanted to go to the state national route do. They want a recognition of the rights that we were promised. Now I'm here and we're talking about all these different interlocking things about, hey, if you're willing to learn all your responsibilities as being in this position of the trust, and then they will take responsibility. And since that you're just a tenant, Brenton, then you have tenant responsibilities, care, upkeep, good maintenance, things like that. But has anybody made it to that point? Is anybody sending off their bill to the proper place and it's getting paid and they are hurt in no way because they took responsibility and did things the way that we're talking about doing right now?
Yes, they're out there.
Okay. Why aren't we doing that? What's the thing that's directly in front of us that stops us from doing that?
We lack the knowledge, and what we're doing right now is we're communicating and exchanging. It's the energy that's being shared right now that is perpetuating the gathering of the knowledge, and the more that goes on, focused, the more we'll learn, just like anything else. But there's the way I would relay it to, one, through my gathered of, knowledge so far, is that status correction is more of a record correction. We're correcting a record, and that record, the way that we've interacted with in our commercial activities our whole life, or until we became privy and figured out how to, move differently through commerce, we've assumed that position as the person. So no matter how much we say, I'm not that person, we're going to have to prove it, because we've proved that we think we are by all the contracting that we've done prior to knowing that. So,
but didn't the pastor say that we are not fact that, and we just have to accept that? That part I've got. Listen, I'm ready. Ready? Me and you together.
Mm-hmm.
Brenton and Matt, aren't those all caps names? Okay, that's a whole kettle of fish We don't agree with how they're spending it, and no matter how much money we give them, they're just going to say we owe more. Me and you are we there? You and I? Is that's where I'm at?
Well, I mean, I'm not. I come to terms with that. You know, the value in things is perceived. You know, like the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You know, so one person's trash could be another man's treasure. You know, so it's really, you know, just to get straight to solution. You know, because I'm mechanical too. I'm hands-on. You know, when I was a child, I used to take my toys apart and take all the wires and batteries out and then rewire.